After Mike, we'll take a quick break. Come on up, Mike. Looks like paraphernalia. I don't know.
Yeah. Is this on? Yeah. Lem Lunch. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council for putting me on the agenda today. Thank you, Jen. We are applying for the BIA resilience funds again this year, and it's pretty self-explanatory. If you have any questions, I think it starts on page 5. So there's 2 parts. There's 2 categories that we're applying for. Category 2 is planning and adaptation planning and not implementation, but like workshops. And category 9 is youth engagement. And that's to reinvigorate the Eagles program that we started back in 2016. Some of the schools are still doing some activities. Mary Rose Morjo up at NRD is still doing some of the recycling, but really without the funds, the kids really haven't been really too active. We want to put on an Eagles Summit, a local Eagles Summit, probably next year. And then my dream with that was to have a regional Eagles Summit and then a national Eagles Summit, and maybe even someday an international Eagles Summit. Any question?
Yeah, question for in the breakdown, you said there's 50% FTE for 2 years, part of the package for a climate change coordinator?
Coordinator, yes.
So the other 50% exists in a tribal budget?
The other, pardon me?
The match, it looks like a match.
I don't believe there's a match.
It says climate change coordinator, it says 50% FTE for 2 years for a total of 80,000.
Oh yeah.
It's 40,000 a year for a climate change position?
Yes.
Okay, so it's fully funded. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be 2 years. We're putting in for 2 years.
Okay.
And I don't know if you guys are familiar. Oh, I'm sorry, Matt.
Go ahead, Carol. One more question, Mike, in regards to part of the grant, I saw that it would help provide for material to help develop the initiative that you volunteered to help draft, that we wanted the resolution.
Oh, yes.
I was hoping that would happen before you get this funding.
Okay. I was going to ask you that because Gwen
Sooner
and I,
the better.
Yeah. Gwen and I, I'll send that to you today to look at. Gwen and I worked on it, and I think we're really close. We wanted to tie it together, really, to this grant application and the resolution. So we're hoping that the funding will help us to really, make that resolution a living,
Be able to implement it more successfully.
Right. Yes.
Cool. One thing that in the future that I would appreciate, since as we know, we're going to do our part as best we can as our role as our tribes. But when I think about how we help the rest of the world and how we educate everybody is developing material, whether we use the living landscape that was developed through our NASA grant or other material that's in the plan that you've helped facilitate, Mike. That we would we would mainstream some of that stuff at Bro Valley Hill at the scenic turnout at the new entrance to the bison range at that visitor center. So we could educate a lot of people coming to Montana about climate change adaptation issues here locally and how they can be part of the solution. So reaching out to the greater public, not solely focused on our tribal communities, but the larger community in a venue like that. So if you see grants that help that, that'd be great. Help us build that building, help do interpretation there. That'd be really, really cool.
Absolutely. Just for your information too, I'm part of the CMP, the Crown Managers Partnership, and we are working on a grant application to America the Beautiful grant. That will be a four-year grant, and I'll be submitting a council request form. So that part of that's going to be for invasive species. Mark Couture in lands wants to use, we put in $40,000 a year for 4 years for lands. He wants to use that to try to eradicate white top along the roadways. Virgil is doing work with water milfoil. And then Tony and Sheena Shaw are doing a lot of work with white bark pine. So I'll be submitting that to come in and get permission.
Yeah, that reminds me of a trivia question or a trivia item. Miss President's wife was Johnson, Lady Lady Bird Johnson. When she did America the Beautiful, one of her initiatives was doing that, and they planted flowers along there right away.
Oh.
And you can see one of those flowers. It's actually a noxious weed here on the reservation. It's a beautiful purple flower all along, especially around Post Creek area.
Oh yeah.
So it comes in purple and white. That's actually an invasive weed.
Yep.
That was brought forward by an America the Beautiful initiative back in the 60s. Trivia.
Is that purple loosestrife?
No, it's not purple loosestrife. It's got another name to it. It's real pretty. It's a pretty plant. It's been flowering for about a month now. Go ahead, Carol.
Yeah, I just want to bring up that when I was at the AIS meeting, there was a guy, the Tom Wolf, that was there. He talked about this invasive species that we have that he thought we need to really work on. It's a Russian flower that's in the waterways. What's that? Maybe it's not Russian, but it's yellow. I think it's the yellow one, but it's everywhere.
Oh, yellow iris?
It might be, but
yellow iris. There's another one. Well, that one, but there's another one that's here that just was located a couple of years ago down. You guys know where Del Nicholson's property was? It was down in that area, and I can't remember
Medusa
the
head.
name of it.
Medusa head.
Huh?
Medusa.
Yeah, Medusa head. Right. So,
But this guy said that it's really blocking off waterways and everything else. It's critical. But anyway, I've asked him to come, but I think Martin's going to work on maybe a letter with Tom to invite this guy on AIS. I invited him, but he hasn't responded. So
I'll give him a call. Tom and I are good buddies. Sure.
I think it requires a call from the chairman. Not
sure. Yeah.
Pee on me.
Wolf would come anytime. Yeah. Good guy.
and I really try to, make these grants inclusive. They're not, I bring in land, I bring in college interns, and yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Mike on his grant application? Motion by Carol.
Does it require a resolution, Mike, or not?
I sent one.
Okay, motion to approve the resolution on this grant application.
Motion by Carol to approve the BIA grant application.
Second.
Second by Anita to approve the grant application resolution for the tribal climate change resilience, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you very much. And I apologize, I sent that resolution this morning. I didn't know, what I read in the RFP was that if you're a health government tribe, you all get covered. But I read more than anyways, I sent in a resolution. So, just so you know, now that I'm now you guys are lifetime members of the Fire Station Life. I tell people once you're on, you're always there.
It's one of those.
Thank you. Have a good day. Oh. Who's not here?
John and Anita. Hey, look at matches, huh?
Thank you.
We'll take a quick break. We'll give you 5.3 minutes.
Council is taking a quick break, but screen share is available when you guys present.
Okay, thanks.
Can you hear me now, Anita?
Yeah, it was just that Mike was up walking around. You couldn't hear what he was saying.
He said you're a lifetime climate change advisory committee member now.
Oh, yeah.
That's all he pretty much said.
Yeah. Okay. You just couldn't hear him. He was walking around with no mic.
Yeah, but he was Mike. I jokes. Just kidding.
Yeah. And it seems to be working out. He sat until we had Uber and then he had to route. It's pretty darn good. He enjoyed that, me and him. The fun of we went and had pancakes and we ate them all. It was a good day. He's gonna go and push the
Hey, Whisper, this is Carrie. I haven't had a chance to go yet. Do you want me to go before you, or do you need to head to a meeting after?
I'm good. If you're up first, you can. Are you up before me?
Yep.
I'll stop sharing. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you never know. Well, I didn't go to the wake for. Okay, we'll come back into session from our break. Carrie, I see you're there. You're up next, Carrie.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman and Council, for having me on this morning. Today, I am presenting the 2022-23 gray wolf trapping and harvest regulations, and looking for approval on getting those ready for this next season. So the all of the harvest limits and the seasons are the same as last year. Most of the things will be the same as what you guys have seen in the past, although it looks a little different. I'm just trying to standardize the look of our regulations to make it more kind of seamless across the different species. And so it looks different, but most of the information is the same as you've seen in the past. The Northwest hunting zone has a quota of 10 wolves with 2 per hunter. So does the South zone there, and I'll go draw down to the map so you can see the different zones. And then over here in the Mission zone, we do have a quota of 5 wolves with 1 per hunter. And so let's see, the hunting seasons do look different between the Northwest and then the Mission and South hunting zones. And that was changed last year due to grizzly bears kind of expanding from that Mission zone down into seeing them more regularly in that South hunting zone. And so to reduce hunter interactions and, unwanted bycatch of bears, we also shifted that South zone hunting season to start in December rather than in September. The only other thing that is different in, or the only thing that is different in this draft is I clarified, we had a couple of questions come in this year over the trapping. And so I clarified that, only foothold traps are permitted in trapping, but that no line or cable snares are allowed in the harvest or trapping of wolves. And then we do have 2 wolf trapping hunter education courses planned for this fall as well. And we've got those dates already planned and written into these regulations so that folks will have plenty of time to be able to prepare to attend one of those if they are planning on hunting this fall. And then we've also worked with FWP to work with if they have travel members wanting to take their online wolf trapping education course, that will qualify as one of qualify as a trapping education course as long as they've got that completion certificate that they'll be able to receive their their hunting permits. Aside from that, everything should look the same. We did put a little plug in here about being bear aware, just to remind folks that if they bring in their tribal ID for $10, that they can get a can of bear spray, because we want to make sure that folks are being safe out there as much as possible. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, Ellie has a question and then Martin.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Carrie, on the Mission Mountains and South Hunting Zone under the harvest limit, should that date of April 30th then match the closing season date of March 15th?
Oh, that's a good catch. Yes, I write it down there, but it does look, yeah, it's different than that.
Okay, and then the only other thing I see is on the Northwest Hunting Zone, where you say follows the western border. I think that should just be BORDER.
Sorry, I missed where that one was at.
Under the Northwest Hunting Zone.
Oh, okay. Border is spelled incorrectly. Oh, yes.
Go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Carrie. Just out of curiosity, do we have a idea of how many wolves we have? I know they're very hard to track, but just a ballpark on the res. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. So we don't currently have a total count. We do keep track with Wildlife Services and APHIS. You know, we manage the conflicts. And typically we try to have at least one wolf collared in each pack so that we can monitor movements and see in relation to a conflict, you know, if a certain or particular pack was involved. We're working to get some collars out. We weren't successful in that this spring, but we're hoping to kind of this season to get a couple of collars out so we can monitor some of those packs a little more closely. But as far as numbers, we don't have pack size numbers at this time.
Carrie, do you know what your harvest has been?
Yeah, so last year we only had one younger female harvested, and then 2 years ago I think we had 3 or 4 total harvests.
And those were all harvested on the reservation or off the
Correct. Yep, those were all on harvest. I believe mostly from the Mission or the South, in the South zones.
Ellie?
Carrie, just that same correction on border over on the right-hand side under the Mission Mountains and South Hunting Zones as well. Mission Mountain Zone.
Okay. Where it says Eastern Border?
Correct.
Okay.
And I would also make the motion to approve these regulations.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Martin.
I just would like to follow up if I may. How many packs are there, I guess, would be I'm just really, I mean, I've never seen a wolf here lately, but I know they're out there. I'm just, then I'd make
yeah. I know that we have at least one pack in each zone. I believe the Mission zone has maybe 2 different packs in there, but the South Wolf zone used to have a couple, 2 or 3, but I believe due to some conflicts early on, we did have to remove some of those packs. And so I think there's maybe just one. I don't think that second kind of pack has reestablished or reformed yet. But, and then as far as in the Northwest Wolf zone, I know that we have at least one pack over there. I'm not sure kind of what their overall home range or distribution is though. And so I know that we, that's kind of part of what we're hoping to, when we get some collars out, kind of calculate or kind of look at where their home ranges are and try to get a better handle of how many packs maybe have reformed.
Thank you, Carrie. We have a motion by Ellie to approve the 2022-23 wolf hunting and trapping seasons and regulations with corrections. Second by Martin. Any further discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Thank you, Carrie.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have Whisper.
Hello, everyone. I have Dan McClure here in the office with me as well. Oh, wrong one. And I believe that Mark Couture is also in the audience to help inform this discussion. And we are here to talk about the contract for a group use recreation permit for the Flathead Raft Company. And sorry, I'm looking for my form, found it, sharing it. To transfer this permit from the previous owner, which is Tamara Froglaw, to Janelle J. Calawat, who's also a tribal member, to have the terms of that most recent contract transferred over to his new company. I'm gonna slim down. So this is how our contract looks that we were able to find in our records. I don't have the dates in. I wanted to make sure that we had hashed out all of our details here, and then I will fill it in and bring that down. There's this version here on page 16, bullet number 3, that says transferability. I think that there was some confusion between the previous owner and us as she was preparing for this year, and her ability and actuality of her selling this business. The transfer did not get set in motion just as they were being sold, rather than prior to. I'm going to scoot down to page 19 in your packet that talks about the fees that we are proposing and the activities that would be brought over from the previous permit / contract to the new owners. They're looking at doing the rafting, whitewater kayaking, camping, and fishing. These are all terms that were in Tammy's previous contract, but I have taken out the lake kayaking as she has chosen to retain that for herself in a separate business. We kept the rate of $6.33 for $12-year-olds and older for the rafting and the kayaking. Previously, the camping version of this was $1 a day per person. Based on our current rates, we've bumped that up to $20 per day per person for a limit of 2 full days. And then the fishing has always been the individual license is required for any activity that occurs. And I've talked with Mark about that, about their approvals to be there, and that we're communicating together between Lands and NRD to make sure that we're all on the same page of what's going on with that company there. So for Flathead Raft Company, for Janelle Calawat, I'm asking if there's any questions on the transfer of this permit, and if you would approve this for them to continue the operations of their work.
So Whisper, let me provide a little bit of historic information on this, since I actually had this permit once a long time ago. So the recreation permit fees have always been kind of a prorated thing. So if a person has a rec permit and they jump on the raft company hasn't never been required to assess that fee then on that person, because they already have an individual current rec permit. So all we're asking in the group use permit is their license according to the ordinance 44D with the rec permit. There's been an allowance that will allow that to be a prorated fee. The prorated fee was basically if it was a the shortest term license, like say a 3-day. In this particular case, the shortest term license we have for an individual that would most likely be a customer of this is an out-of-state 3-day license, and that costs $80. The way we did that before was prorated that to a 1-day fee for them, so they didn't have to pay the full amount, and they'd pay 1/3 of that amount. And that's kind of the way it was adjusted each year. If the fees went up, then their rate went up along with it. So to get back to the other issue, though, on this particular one, is that a lot of the fee schedule that you have before us today, where it was generated to reduce conflict in dispersed recreation areas. So, where there's a lot of people coming, not in a controlled setting. So when you have a guide, an outfitter, that recreationist then is under a controlled setting. And so the responsible party is the contractor here, the particular business is our representative to make sure that their customers stay out of trouble. They mind the you know, all the regulations, et cetera, and they avoid conflict with our own membership. So the fee schedule, I would just advocate, is not necessarily applicable to this business because they're under control. And we have total ability to regulate the number of visitors they can have. We could set the number of floats that can sit a day if we chose to through this contract or not. You know, so that's, this is a controlled recreation pursuit. So I just want to make sure council understands that. And they're limited to one site that's a camping site on the Day Shop property, which is an acquisition we had years and years ago. It doesn't necessarily have a lot of other tribal member use or any use at all on it. I wanted to point that as far as a clarity. The unique thing on this one that might be a change in what they're proposing is fishing. So the previous raft companies really never engaged in fishing. They had that in their contract, but I believe this particular new owner and his or hers associates may do more fishing. So there may be some float fishing on this this particular request. Just so you know that. So it might be they try to catch smallmouth bass in the river on one of their floats. So that, or pike, something of that nature. But again, it's a control. So if there's limitations, this probably could be revisited with this company if you choose to, if there's issues. And that's kind of it. The one question I have for you, Whisper, is that they mentioned that they may offer boat rides out to Wild Horse Island. They don't list a motorized boat. Are they doing that with sea kayaks?
You know, I think they asked to just take that out. I did take it out of this version, but I will double check on that. I think they said they weren't going to be doing the trips to Wild Horse.
Okay.
And pulling off of the previous contract that I could find for the previous owner listed the contract out to 2025. So I have changed the date from 2020, which was previous with Tammy, to 2022, and then this would extend out to 2025. That's the other
on page 20, I believe it item.
Oh, scenic Wild Horse rides. Yep, I see it.
Yeah. And
yes.
They don't list motorized boats down below.
Scenic Wild Horse. I'll double check.
The other question I have is the insurance, and Mark, of course, is here. Maybe he can answer this. Did they provide a certificate of insurance to you? And are they indemnifying the tribes on the insurance? And what is their amount? What is it normally you request?
$1 million.
$1 million?
Yeah, and that's in the actual business lease contract that we did have with Tammy. And it did actually have that we were exempt. We were added to that insurance policy. We were not liable for any injuries or accidents.
So that would be on the property of the Super One food lot.
Right. For the company themselves. They have to carry that for the liability they have.
Ellie?
Question, Whisper, on, I need to find it again here. On page 19 for the activity and fee schedule, it's the 2022-23 fee schedule. Will that change then each year under this contract?
Yes.
Or should that be 25 and it stays consistent for the duration of the contract?
Down here it says the activity and fee schedule will be reviewed and modified each May as needed to reflect current 44D activity fees. So there would be the potential for us to modify that each spring before they set their rates. So yes, and I don't know, Tom, if that gets brought to council every year or if that's something we negotiate in-house, if it goes above or below annually.
Yeah, that was the great debate with the reorganization that occurred on whether or not it needed to go to council or that would be just the executive secretary could do that under his authority. So it used to be very clear that it was a prorated 1/3 cost of whatever the current fee schedule was. So it was a simple math issue. You did each year, whatever the current fee schedule was. So that's what, and so what you do is you just notify the raft company ahead of time once the council approves the regulations for the next year, that this is what the current fee schedule will be for the next season, and they need to adjust accordingly. But that kind of got got behind. She got behind with Amanda on keeping up with that, so they slipped a little bit behind it. And then Tammy did make up for it 1 year, but the current fee schedule right now that's there is not reflective of our current regulation of this year. So they're obviously asking for a waiver from the current fee schedule and the norm that was out there. Jennifer?
Thank you, Chairman McDonald. Have they been operating without this agreement in place once they bought the company? Have they been doing boat rides or whatever they do?
So I guess for me, on our side, there was a bit of a transition time. And when I talked to them, they were still physically or fiscally in the process of transition. So some of that hadn't already been finalized. And we got this going at the same time. So there may be some overlap. I don't know if they're totally sold or if that's still things that are working through their financial system and the business. So at this point, they're still operating under Tammy Frawa's last known contract and permit.
So to follow up with that too, right now, a mutual termination has not been signed off by Tammy on the old existing contract, but she did sell the business. We are trying to get Tammy into the office and the new owner to come in and do the paperwork to get this all transitioned over. As of right now, this lease is still in Tammy's name, but if this termination does not happen, then it would be in default because it's a sublease. So they're trying to get it in order. The office has reached out to the new owner a few times, trying to get them to come into the office. But we haven't had any success reaching them or having them respond to us. I say we actually have reached out to them on phone calls and emails, but we just haven't been able to get them to get to the office and correspond with us.
And Janelle has been responsive.
Yeah, we might tell them that we're still thinking about whether we're going to permit them or not. Maybe that'll get them into the office.
Well, the one thing I guess is the chicken and the egg. There's no point in moving the lease that Mark manages to their name if they don't have a permit to raft. So really, I wouldn't sell the business. I wouldn't buy the business without going to the council first and inquiring the transfer of the contract for rafting on the river to the new entity, to Janelle Kilowatt. So I think council needs to take action before they would really legitimately come into Lands Department.
Or us to get that.
They could start with the Land Department to come back into council to get this approved. If not, it could be a trespass. It is a trespass right now if council wishes for us to move forward.
Yeah.
After the mutual termination.
The reason why I say that way I do is that they don't need to be on that lot to operate the raft company.
Right.
What they do to operate the raft company is this contract with the council. In the past, when it was a non-member business, we started shrinking them down in the terms of the length of the contract from 5 years down to an annual contract. And then once we had tribal members interested in operating and owning the company, we extended those normally to 5 years so they could secure financing and borrow money to improve the business, et cetera, et cetera. So a longer term contract. And so that's kind of been the history also of this contract. So we do have a tribal member involved in this, proposing or negotiating to buy this, or did buy it from another tribal member.
And if you're looking to vote on my contract for the recreation, I would ask with the amendment to include the Wild Horse Island boat. Since I did include it below, it probably was just a clerical error on my end when I was creating that table and did not get that moved back over. And that is on the south end of Flathead Lake Recreation. So that would just include the south. That would be not a fee for that, other than our administrative fee.
Mark, the term for your contract is, well, how long?
5 years.
So would it expire the same as this one?
Yeah, it actually started in 2020 and it was going to run out to 25. They would just be transitioning over into the existing contract expiration date and then have to come back into council to renew.
And in your process, do you demand to see a certificate of insurance each year?
Yes, it is part of the business lease handbook that we have to use for the BIA, and that the insurance is required.
What would be the pleasure of council in regard to this route permit request? Go ahead, Carol.
I'm confused. Didn't we just say they should be coming in? For our contract, not this.
For the business lease aspect, to get the business lease transitioned over into their name, they need to come into our office and get that taken care of. This one is the transition from Tammy, so to John L. J. Calwatt for the recreation permit side of it. There's two separate scenarios here.
Yeah,
there's the recreation and then there's the business lease.
I'm so confused. So why would you even think about transferring a permit if you don't have? I mean, they can say, well, we're not going to go in there and see lands. I mean, to me, that would be the first place you would go to secure.
They are being trespassed on our end. Not NRD. The tribal lands department will be trespassing if they don't come in. They'll be under trespass because they do not have a active lease.
Well, I don't think you would do either one. I think you'd do them together. No,
if we've done that in the past.
Carol, just point of clarity. So under ordinance 44D, for someone to do guiding and outfitting, they need council approval to do that. And we would identify what lands they do that on. Where they hold their office and where their place of business is completely separate, unless that's on tribal land, and then they need to get Mark's permit. So the chicken and the egg in this particular case is you would want to get your outfitting license first from the tribal council and then find your business location, which in this case, they want to maybe transfer into the revocable land use lease that lands had with them.
Okay, got it.
So they can operate the business without council authorizing the transfer of this contract, their current Tammy's contract, to the new owner, Kilowatt. Then they're good to do business. They can float the river, and they can find a location for their business. And they'll probably propose to keep the same location as the Super One food lot. And then they need to codify that arrangement with the lands department.
Mr. Chair, I'd make the motion to approve the transfer of the CSKT group recreation permit to the new tribal member for 2022 to 2025, including the change that Whisper's going to make regarding the Wild Horse Tour.
Motion by Ellie to approve the transfer of the group use recreation permit and contracts to the Kilowatt from Fuqua. I always print, you always print your name. With the conditions as stated and the identification for the Wild Horse Island boat. Second by Mike.
Question.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Carol.
Is Janelle 51% owner? Did you say that?
That's what he had told me. I haven't seen, like, he told me that there are 2 LLCs that have come together to become a corporation.
Okay, I was just checking it on Facebook and there are 2 owners. And so I was just wondering if the tribal members 51%, should that be?
Is that a requirement?
We could bring that back, but at this point, we just don't have them in yet, so.
Okay.
We can amend the motion to make sure that they're 51% owner.
Correct.
I agree. Yeah, an honor, and we just don't have the paperwork yet. So.
Yeah, we don't have the paperwork, and we agree with that same sentiment that it 51% owner on the tribal member.
Well, because we all know that if things go awry, you know what happens, and then the tribal members usually. I know Janelle a little bit, and he seems like a really nice, smart kid, younger guy.
I don't even know who he is. Yeah. Like, I don't even know who he is, but I know Nick on that side. He's a good business person. However, he is the non-member, so that'll be interesting.
Any further discussion? Go ahead, Martin.
What's their time frame to get in to see you?
We're hopefully trying to get Tammy to come in and do the mutual termination, and then getting Janelle to come in and sign the paperwork by end of week. So the process can start with the lease, getting that taken care of and getting put in place.
Because they're operating, right?
Yes.
So
under the current business lease, because the mutual cancellation and that has not been done yet.
So that Tammy's assuming all the liability right now? What's their insurance?
Yes. Tammy's holding the liability and everything on it right now.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Show of hands. Carol, no? Motion passes. Carol votes no on that one. Oh, pardon? Opposed? Opposed, yes. Thank you, Whisper.
You're welcome. And we had one last little clarification related to this, and that was Tammy Frawa's business as the Shaka Shack. And I know that Mark said that we're still getting her paperwork in place. She is still renting out kayaks, sea kayaks, for kayaking on the south end of Flathead Lake. She previously had approval to go through the tribal park down below to get to the lake. Her people that she rents to weren't allowed to stop and have a picnic or hang out. They could just drag the boat across and get into the lake and move through there. I've been trying to figure out how to codify that or put that in a permit or something so that that is official. And Mark and I talked today about that as well. And we're trying to get that worked out. And I had talked with Tom about previous action. We can put in our permit that language that she could only go through the tribal park if that is something you want to continue to do. And I would have a separate contract with her for sea kayaks only, or how best to handle that access, or if you do not want to allow her to be able to drag kayaks through the tribal park. And they would probably still be assessed our $35 administration fee. Or if you want me to submit this as a separate one so that you can look at it as well.
Pardon? Yeah, Whisper, can you provide that in writing? Can you get a summary from Tammy and what she's requesting? And then I guess, is that a severance? Is that that 2 leases for you then?
Sorry about that. Yeah, that is a separate lease that she had with us for the snow cone shack that's up there on that lot. And she just retained the kayaking part of it. That's an active lease under her for till 25 also. It ran the same time frame as the other one, but she's holding on to that lease still.
So she would operate that out of the snow cone building?
Yeah. And it doesn't change any of her licensing or anything that she needs. The insurance still has to stay the same. Everything is still on board right that underneath the contract. Yeah,
so Whisper, I would prefer to see that in writing, what she's requesting to go through the tribal only member park. And indeed, I probably would only look at entertaining that on an annual basis.
Okay.
Carol?
I just wanted to make a statement for the record on that opposed. I would just like to see all parties in the room to discuss this, because to me, it just feels piecemealed and I'm not sure if we all are on the same page. So thank you, Abby.
To clarify, you want the contractor to come to council with us to be here to answer questions. Is that correct?
Well, I'm just saying that for me. That was my response of why I voted opposed. That's not for you to do anything. That's just me saying that for the record in the minutes. Whisper. Unless council says we should have everybody in the room.
I think what Carol's reflecting upon, Whisper, is a lot of times on a new contract renewal, the people would be available to present with it, be able to ask questions. I think that's what Carol is requesting.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, I'll submit the other one separately and put that in through the proper channel.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Melinda, come on up.
Good morning. This morning I'm here to get council approval for a project-specific agreement with the Montana Department of Transportation for a mill fill project on Round Butte Road. It's about 0.15 feet of the existing surface, and the location is in your packet on the map on page 27. So that's where they're going to be doing that. And the project hasn't been let out for bid yet. They're planning on possibly letting it out for bid this summer, so sometime soon. And then with the construction being completed by the end of August 2023. So they're going to be doing like a seal and cover treatment, and then being fog sealed, and all existing pavement markings will be perpetuated.
Mr. Chair, I'd make the motion to approve the project-specific agreement.
Motion by Martin to approve the project-specific agreement between the tribes and the Montana Department of Transportation for the Round Butte Road mill fill project. Second by Bing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands.
Thank you.
Unanimous. Thank you, Melinda. I'm assuming they're going to continue that on through time.
And then I'll probably be coming, they're going to be doing along with the highway that they're going to be doing hopefully next summer, they're also going to be extending that walking path that's out there to the new highway. So I'll probably be coming back later with one to do that too. So there'll be a little bit of work going on out there next summer. And then with hopefully we'll have our first part of the Ronan Highway starting next summer too. So.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Dan, you're up. Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chairman and Council. So we'll request executive session.
We'll move into executive.